Hi there, welcome to Let's Talk Tottenham. So a game against Southampton and Ryan Mason replacing Jose are all secondary this week to the big news, the European Super League, which thankfully doesn't look like it's going to happen with all the English teams dropping out. I mean, the ramifications for English football would have been absolutely catastrophic if it had have gone ahead. I'm here with a buddy of mine, Rob Mungham. Now, he is a West Ham fan, but he has promised to be nice, as this is a Spurs podcast. We're talking about the European Super League, whether it was a publicity stunt for those 6 to get more money, what it would have meant for the rest of the 14 and the rest of the leagues below, and whether it will come about again. So we're talking about that and much, much more on Let's Talk ESL No More with West Ham fan Rob Mungham. Hi Rob, thanks so much for coming on. How you doing?
Yeah, no worries, mate. Yeah, I'm all good, mate. You all right?
Yeah, not too bad. Ask me again after on Sunday evening and I may have a different answer, but yeah, I mean, I don't know if you watched the game yesterday, Southampton game, but for me, my point of view anyway. But actually, let's first up the cup final on Sunday. Who do you want to win?
Who do you think? Being a West Ham fan, who do you think?
I don't know.
No, I think if you get anything out of the game, or if you take City to extra time, I think that'd be a good result for you, considering you got rid of Mourinho this week. You got a new management coaching set up in place. I think what I saw on in the news. I think if you can take them any kind of distance, I think you do really well personally. But as always, it's the year of the one, mate. So you never know.
Yeah. But the answer we were looking for is you want Tottenham to win, so we'll edit this part out. But,
mate, come on. The only time I've cheered for you boys is against Bin Dippers in the CL final a couple of years ago. That's because I hate Liverpool more because I can't stand them. But that's a story for another day.
Yeah. I think in a final, even if you take them to extra time and lose, it's a bad result because we're there to win. But we'll get to that in a minute. The Southampton game, I think after a couple of bad performances, I think it was massively important to get a win there. The first half was absolutely atrocious, but then we played like that all season. So a new coaching setup, I think it's very difficult to change that in, 2 days. But Bale come back. Bale looked a bit more like the Bale himself. Maybe he's been a bit more unleashed, a bit more freedom. Do you think that there's possible talk that Harry Kane won't be there for the final? And I've seen talk that he's progressing well, but in or out, do you think Bale could be huge in that final, being of what he's won and the kind of player he is?
The trouble with Bale is he's been out when he was at Madrid for the last couple of years. He's not really been playing. He's been more constant. He's been more interested in playing golf. I mean, when he was, obviously when he was younger with you boys, when he basically announced himself to the world against Inter Milan, when he got a hat-trick, didn't he, in that game? He's an absolutely terrific player, and that's what obviously earned him the move to Real Madrid. And I think he did all right for the first couple of seasons at Madrid, and then he just veered off because he didn't get on with Zidane. But I think if he finds a bit of passion and a bit of love for the game, I think there's no enemies. What, 30, 31 now, I think?
Yeah, 31. Yeah.
So he's still got probably 3, 4, 5 years perhaps in him. But I think now he's back at a club where, he's probably, I don't know if you look at him as as godlike status as you would do, let's say someone like Klinsmann or Jimmy Greaves or Ozzy, but he's certainly up there, one of the best players you've had, certainly in recent history. And I think you Tottenham boys do hold him in some kind of reverence. And I think when the fans come back, I think you might then potentially get a bit more and a bit better out of him. I think he probably needs a bit of a crowd to give him that little bit of a push.
That's if he's there next year because the loan ends. So
that all depends. But I know I've heard that Real Madrid do want to get rid of him. But I think they accepted a minimum bid from that Chinese team, which didn't fall through. But I think if he does come back to you permanent, I think the stumbling block would be the wages. But I think if he can come back and put a decent couple of seasons in for you, then I think you'll probably potentially get the best out of him again.
Yeah, well, I bought myself a shirt with Bale on the back, the second he was signed up, 90 quid down the drain potentially, but then it could come trumps if he scores a winner in the final.
But no, mate, it's just that one goal, isn't it? So I think when we played you, I can't remember which season it was, and I think we were winning 2-1 or something. It was Upton Park, and Bale scored an absolute screamer. And I think I've got a few text messages off you that night. And like you say, it takes one goal or one movement just to turn the game, really. So I mean, if he just, no matter what he does in the build-up, if he scores that winning goal potentially against Man City, then that's all that needs to be done.
I was playing pool when that goal went in. Someone was about to take their shot. I cheered, put them off. I wasn't popular, but we won, so I didn't care. Anyway. Yeah, we had VAR controversy again. We don't need to go into VAR. Everyone knows about that.
That will be here forever otherwise.
Yeah. What did you think of Jose's firing? We'll get to the ESL later, which it almost went under the radar that Jose was fired. I mean, you as a West Ham fan must be absolutely delighted with it. Don't try and win too much that Tottenham are the only club that he hasn't won a trophy with, which I said would probably happen when he was appointed. But for me, it was never the right fit anyway, and it was kind of coming off the tracks anyway. So I'm not surprised he was fired. I'm more surprised at the timing.
Yeah, I mean, I still don't. I know I work with a couple of big Spurs fans at work, and I still don't know why you got rid of Pochettino. To be honest with you, I think your board were absolutely ridiculously stupid about that. I kind of understand why I got rid of Mourinho, but like I say, I question the timing. Obviously, you got a final next week, unless there's some kind of magic clause in his contracts or anything like that. It's a bit like Jacques Santini when you were in the bottom half of the table or something. You fired Jacques Santini, and he tried to take you for the full contract, and he had something in his contract saying he would only be eligible for a decent payout if he's in the top half of the table. So I don't know if he's got anything like that in the contract that they were trying to weasel out of, but Mourinho in the last 3 or 4 sackings he's taken about 80 million quid out of it. So I don't think he's a special one anymore. I don't think it did you any favours hiring him. But like I say, I don't know why you chose now, a week before a cup final, to get rid of him. It just baffles me.
Simon Jordan said on Talk Sport that he thought it was another Conte issue at Chelsea. Conte won the league, then got fired, then sued him for wrongful dismissal. Jose was brought in to win something. We're in a final, but it's not going swimmingly well the way we're playing. So he thought that we got rid of him before that in case he won the final, because then we can't really get rid of him. But whether that's the case, I have no idea. But
I don't know, but the trouble with Mourinho is he normally does well for a couple of seasons. Like he did well for a couple of seasons when he first joined Chelsea. Then it went all pear-shaped and he got fired. Then he went to, where did he go after that? He went to Inter Milan after that, didn't he?
Yeah. I mean, it's what we do though, Tottenham. We bring people down. If Sir Alex Ferguson was our manager, he'd be taken to the Palace to get rid of the Sir again. He'd just be Alex Ferguson.
I don't think he'd be that bad, mate.
What do you see next for Mourinho? Because he's obviously gone to Man United and not really been a success there. Come to Tottenham, not been a success there. Do you think he's got another big job in him, or do you think that's kind of it? I think Premier League is kind of done for him now.
Yeah, I can't remember. Someone was saying the other day, I think he's done for the Premier League now. I think he'll have to go back either to Italy or he'll have to chance his luck at international level. I think, when he first came into the Premier League, was it back in 2000 and whenever it was, he was new, he was fresh, he was young, but now he's not adapted, I don't think. Yes, he's won trophies, but in terms of being, building up a team like Ferguson did at Manchester United over them years, like Wenger did at Arsenal. They had decent. They at the time they built the squads, but I don't think Mourinho is like that. I think he's more short-term planning as opposed to long-term planning. I mean, I don't know who your longest serving manager has ever been, but certainly I know that since the Premier League started, you've had quite a few. You've had quite a few managers. So I think, in terms of, what the board need to do next after Mourinho, I think you can't really dwell too much because what's happened is obviously sort of going forward. You boys, I think, need to get a decent young manager in. I'm not necessarily saying, someone that's, so fresh off, retiring, like, I don't know, Ryan Giggs, for example, or was it Julian Nagelsmann in Germany? He was about 34 when he took over at, I think it's Hoffenheim or RB Leipzig, I think. But certainly someone that's still in the, the early stage of their managerial career that can be there for, 10, 15, 20 years and build something special. I think, the board needs someone they need to think long term, and they didn't need a manager that's going to think long term as well. And when they come in, you can't expect to hit the ground running. I think you should be looking at sort of, you might take a dip, but certainly for the longer term planning, look at sort of someone that's going to be there for a long time that can build almost like a dynasty, really.
Yeah, I mean, we had that, and then we let him go. But
yeah, like I said, I don't understand. We got rid of Poch. I think that was madness, absolute madness.
I mean, I'm just going to have to turn the light on because it's getting really dark in here. Bear with
Yeah,
me
no
2
worries,
seconds.
That's better.
Yeah. Not good for a video, is it? But anyway,
Not
Ryan Mason, no. I mean, he's the interim manager, which I love Ryan Mason. And I don't think, because of what happened to him when he was 26 playing in that game for Hull, I don't think anyone really dislikes him. You take loyalties aside. But, I mean, it's too early for him to be full-time manager, even if he wins all 6 of our games in the all 5 of our games in the league and then the Carabao Cup. It's another Lampard situation, isn't it? Too early for him.
Yeah, potentially. I mean, sometimes it pays off, sometimes it doesn't. I mean, we've, West Ham, we've never had a really, really young manager. I mean, I think the youngest manager we had was probably Pardew back in 2006, I think.
He was an experienced manager at that time. Like
but he had a bit more experience in, in the Championship. But I mean, you look at, I don't know, probably the least inexperienced person you probably got in the Premier League at the moment is probably Scotty Parker over at Fulham. And he seems to be doing all right, but I don't think there's as much pressure on him at a club like Fulham as if he'd done it straight like someone like Spurs or Man United or Chelsea or whoever. I think when you mentioned about Lampard, I think he went for the Chelsea job too soon. And if Ryan Mason is, he may be a good coach at the moment, but obviously he needs to cut his teeth somewhere. But like you say, I think it might be a bit too soon for him. But if he can stay in and around the first team, as like a first team coach or assistant manager or something, he'll certainly pick up some tips and tricks and experience before he goes off and spreads his wings elsewhere.
I think that's what needs to happen. Interim coach the end, steady the ship, hopefully make us a bit more of attacking again, try and win this cup, and then in the summer, whoever comes in, bring them in and keep him involved in that first team. But obviously we were expected to get into the top 4, and we're still in with a shout of that, but it's very much
hopefully not.
Well, it's very much outsiders. But your team, I predicted you to be struggling for a relegation battle. I predicted you to be about 4th bottom, and are you 4th now or 5th? I can't remember now.
I think we're down to 5th actually.
But your season, I mean, the start of the season, were you worried like it's going to be another relegation battle? Or did you think you were going to be? I don't expect you thought you were going to be anywhere near Champions League, but like certainly top half.
Well, look at it like this: every time I open up BBC Sport or Sky Sports, I think the table's upside down. I'm not used to it. This is not the West Ham way, mate. After what happened last season, we stayed up by the skin of our teeth. We were expected to pretty much do the same this year. I think what the good thing that Moisey's done is got rid of some of the deadwood, like that Sebastian Haller. I mean, that bloke, seriously, I've got more enthusiasm at 2 o'clock in the morning when I've got to get up and drive to work. And he does. I mean, I don't know whether Ajax did it on purpose when they left him out of the Europa League squad, but it was hilarious. But I think he's got rid of a lot of the stuff that Pellegrini brought in, and I'm just in shock, mate. This is not the West Ham way. We should be battling relegation. That's what I'm used to. I don't know what it's like to win like 3 or 4 games in a row, unless it's on FIFA.
What do you think the change has been? Do you think it's because there's no fans? Because correct me if I'm wrong, but your fans gave this team a lot of stick last season. So without that this time, has it allowed them a bit more freedom? So is that the reason? Has Moyes developed a plan? Have the players stepped up? Have other teams dropped down? Or is it a combination of everything that it sees you?
I think it's a combination of everything, really. Because I mean, obviously, everyone's every team in the Premier League's in the same boat. Spurs, Sheffield United, West Brom, everyone. It's alien. This has never happened before. Certainly, probably not since the 1918 Spanish flu outbreak. But I honestly don't know, mate. I think it probably could be a combination of not having the fans there. I think the one thing I do notice about the London teams is that obviously we're all. I mean, every football club is. Every football club comes from working working routes. But you look at obviously West Ham, we're the old dockyard workers. Arsenal, well, they started out in Woolwich originally, so they have been again to do with sort of docking and sailing, and it's all working class routes. About bringing communities together. So we always cheer on as much as you guys do. But I think it's a combination of everything. You look at, was it Villa did Liverpool early in the season 7-2. You've never seen that coming a million miles away, just like you wouldn't see us fighting for Champions League. But I think the reason why we've probably done so well is, I think the fans haven't been on the back on the match days, but also I think it's like, Moyes has probably gone out and said, right, there's no expectations on you. If we can achieve X, then that's absolutely fine. Anything above X, let's say 10th place, for example, anything above that's a bonus, and we've just taken it to the next level. So I'm sure that Gold and Sullivan are shitting their pants, excuse my language. They're probably going to pay out some decent bonuses this year. So I'm surprised because Gold and Sullivan are money grabbers. I'm surprised I didn't try and pitch up for the European Super League as well. But
we'll talk about that when we talk about that. Last thing on West Ham before we move on to that absolute outrage of that idea. I think your team spirit is kind of what it was like. Our team spirit was like under Pochettino. Like you beat us at Upton Park when we should have got something out of that game. But if you're giving away golden chances like that, you don't deserve to win games. But we had all these chances, but a lot of them were blocked, last-ditch defending, and the teamwork and team spirit there of we'll fight for every ball, we fight together. I think Declan Rice has had a huge impact in that as well.
I think, definitely. I think it's a shame because you boys have actually got a good squad. I think you do. Obviously, you heavily rely on Son and Kane, but you look at your squad as a whole. You shouldn't be where you are. You should be certainly, it should be roles reversed. We should be sort of down in 6th or 7th, and you guys should be knocking on the door of the Champions League. Not that I'm complaining. Don't get me wrong. But you guys have got a good squad. It's just that final, it's that final glue, to bring it all together. Like when Redknapp left Pompey and took over you boys back in whenever it was. You never thought in a million years that Redknapp would take you to Champions League quarters, semi-finals. Playing against the likes of Inter Milan at San Siro, even though you did lose 4-3. You announced yourselves in Europe at that point. And I think, from where you are now, from where you were to where you are now, I think Redknapp's got to take a lot of credit for that. So it's, Project Spurs or whatever you want to call it, started way back in 2008 or something, or whenever he left Pompey. It just needs that. I think if Pochettino was still here, and okay, I've mentioned it a couple of times, if Poch was still there, I think you boys would be in a lot better position than you are. And I don't know why they got rid of him. But
we were, I'm not sure if we were 14th, but we were fairly low down when Levy's a big fan of Mourinho, so it was his kind of dream to have him in. But I was devastated. I was in a restaurant and Pochettino got fired. I was devastated. The next day Mourinho's in. I felt like I was like cheating on a partner for supporting Mourinho.
I remember you saying that actually when we spoke.
But we're not out of that top 4 race, but we're only 3 points behind. But we have played extra games, so if they go against us, then we're out of it. But if teams, and Leicester aren't out of this by now, they had a capitulation last year. I think you're 1 point behind them, aren't you?
Yes, because we beat 2 points behind them because we beat them, didn't we? 3-2.
I think they've got a game in hand on you as well, but they could be thinking now about the FA Cup final. Chelsea could be thinking about the Champions League.
It's a strange season, though, isn't it? All round, it's a very, very strange season. Sort of, it's still open for anyone. I think it's still fairly close down to about 8th, I think. So it's a very. I think Man City got it in the bag. I think they only need to win about 3 more games. But then again,
I think they should focus on that in the Champions League. I think the other one is pointless. They don't need to bother with that.
Oh yeah, definitely, mate. I think they should rest their entire squad. They should put a youth team out. Rest the first team, put the youths out for the final.
It's no guarantee.
No, but I think So yeah,
it's no guarantee that we'd win that, but you know.
No, I think they'll do all right on Sunday. Actually, I reckon you'll take it to them because obviously you want to. You've got something to prove that to Ryan Mason as well, saying that you've got to play for him. You've got to say like, right, you've got to justify that Levy's made the right decision on getting rid of Mourinho. You know, and I think you boys will be bang up for it.
I hope
because you are. Yeah, you won't be the. Yes, you're the underdogs, and obviously the underdogs always do all right, and that's what that's the glorious thing about football. You know, the underdog has always got the chance.
Yeah, I think if we're going to lose by fighting, don't lose with a whimper, because then it's just awful. But yeah, I mean, as long as we fight and show a bit of spirit, then you can take losing there. Obviously, I'll be still livid because I want to win.
Yeah, I mean, if I think it's bittersweet, really. I mean, if you go, you look at our final back in 2006 against the Bin Dippers, we played probably the best game of football I've seen us play. We played our socks off, and we were unlucky. That was our final. I knew as soon as that ball left Gerrard's foot, that was it. But it could be anyone's, and I think you boys will give it to them. I think you boys will give them a good game on Sunday.
Yeah, well, I hope so. But I mean, you mentioned the underdogs there is the great part of football. So the big news this week, we've got to talk about the awful part, and I mean, no prizes for guessing what your reaction to it was. I think it's fairly universal that, I mean, in terms of football, we don't agree on much at club level, but I think we agree on this, and it's absolutely disgraceful.
I think it's been actually quite good. It's been good from the point of view that it's actually united a lot of football fans around the UK. People like me and you would actually agree on something on football that doesn't involve England. I think the only time we do agree on something is if it involves a national team. But I think it was just to play by the big clubs. I think what's even worse is I think I was listening to. I was going to work the other morning and I listened to Radio 5 Live, and it's Dosen Adebayo, and he's talking with Tim Vickery, who's based over in South America. And he's basically saying, it's like, yes, the billionaires always want their slice of the pie. But he said, what's completely unacceptable is hiding behind a pandemic. Because I think Florentino Perez came out and said, we've lost X amount of money because of the pandemic. It's like, well, what about the other thousands of clubs in Europe?
Real Madrid are £900 million in debt. This was just to get them more money, which.
Yeah, it's the same with Barcelona as well. Barcelona are something like £1 billion in debt, or €1 billion in debt, and their wage bill is something extraordinary, something like €600 million a year. And I think €550 million of that is for Lionel Messi. So you can kind of see why they're kind of keen to get him off their wage bill. But I think this is mainly being pushed by the American owners over here, but I think even more so being pushed by Real Madrid and Barcelona, because they are so heavily in debt. They're teetering on going under. I mean, they borrow money like nobody's business. Yeah. They borrow on future success. They're banking on they're going to win the league. They're banking on right, we're going to win the league, we're going to bring this much in. We win the Champions League, we're going to bring this much in. And they're getting loans off the back of that. And that's no kind of business model. I think you need the 50+1 rule that they've got in Germany, and the clubs would be absolutely fine to run by themselves. But I think it's just pure greed. There's nothing more to say about it. It's just pure greed. And like I say, it's a game that was started by the working class, like the dockers, the factory workers back in 1800 and something. And, it's the heart and soul of many communities. And I think, if you want to take it off the community, we're going to put up a fight for it. And, fair play for Chelsea for sitting in front of the bus and not letting the Brighton players in. And, all the other teams that came out and protested. And I think even, UEFA have shown a little bit of a spine, not too much of a spine, but a little bit of a spine, because they've now said they're going to welcome back all the teams, which I think is a bit, personally, I know you guys were involved, but in the Champions League, but I think all those teams need to be kicked. If they're still in Europe this season, they need to be kicked out of Europe, and they need to be kicked out for the next season as well. But unfortunately, they're not going to do that because they're the cash cows for the Champions League.
Well, I disagree with the UEFA, because their new rules for the Champions League, when it's reformatted, come out.
Oh, I've not seen those yet. Obviously, being a West Ham fan, I don't really take much of your notes of European football.
Well, it'll be interesting because
I might have to start taking notes now, though. But.
Well, it's changed to 36 teams. Every team plays at least 10. I think it's a league. I don't know how it works, but essentially, you play 10 games, top 8, I think, in the league, go through to the knockouts. And then you've got to wait. But it's the qualification that cheeses me off, because this ESL is essentially us top 6 teams, Tottenham included, are in it regardless of where they finish. Whereas if you finish 5th, you're not in it. Right? Whereas this new Champions League, 2 of the 4 spaces, because it's made up of teams who have won and finished top 4 or whatever, and then there's a few spaces left, and 2 of those are based on coefficients. So you could have a situation 5th in the Premier League, if Tottenham finish 5th in the Premier League, because they've got a good European pedigree recently, get into the Champions League. If Wolves finish 5th, they haven't, don't get in. So again, it's exactly the same. It's just keeping the rich rich. And you'll get a situation there, say you versus Chelsea this year for top 4, one of you finishes 5th. Chelsea can just say, well, we're not bothered about this, we'll just finish 5th, we're in. You have to finish 4th. And that's exactly the same, just to a lesser slight level of this ESL. Guardiola said it, didn't he? It's not sport if losing doesn't matter. But if you finish 5th, you're not in the Champions League. You have to finish 4th. Yeah. That's what matters. So basically what it is, it's nothing to do with fans at all. It's this ESL has come in and threatened to take over all the money and the control. And UEFA go, we can't have that lack of control. We'll put it as in this story that, it's disgracing the fans and disrespectful to the fans. But all it is they want the control back. And John Barnes, I think, said it on... I tweeted it on Twitter, but it was some news channel, I think, and it's absolutely spot on. It was never about the fans. This isn't a win for the fans. It's just money, and the apologies coming from the owners. I mean, they're fake apologies, but at least they gave bloody apologies. Levy's was all this justification about why they did it. It's just justification, and then he says we didn't want to stand still. We didn't sign anyone for 500 days. I mean, it's just absolutely crazy. But it just really angered me.
Sorry. I mean, if Levy had come out and said, look, this is the reason we did it for X, Y, Z reasons. Okay, perhaps in hindsight, we didn't take everything into consideration, and for that, I'm sorry. I think that would have probably gone down far better than. But that's what Levy's like, though, isn't he? He's got more fun from Southend, though. Let's be honest.
He's the only one who hasn't apologised. It's just unbelievable. But I mean, do you think this?
I think all the other ones did it through gritted teeth, though. To be honest with you.
Yeah, but at least they actually did it, and just. I mean, you got Liverpool. You'll never walk alone. You've got Manchester United, which one of their stands has a quote from Matt Busby about it's about the fans, and you've got these owners who come in. I mean, Klopp had a moan at Gary Neville. It's not Klopp's fault. It's not the players' fault. It's the owners have no idea. And Levy messes Tottenham up. That's fine because he doesn't sign players. But then to disrespect our entire history, the entire history of every team in the Football League, that the fans and it's just a disgrace. And all 12 of those. But it's just absolutely. Well, I mean, there's no words, is there, really? But I mean,
no. Like I say, it just boils down to pure greed. I think if you're going to set up a competition where you're going to have 12 people or 12 teams, sorry, that are never going to get relegated. I mean, you're going to end up like the MLS. The MLS hasn't got any relegation, hasn't got any promotion, and it's like, what are you actually playing for? The Premier League plays. You play so you stay in the Premier League. Yeah, ultimately you stay in the Premier League, you get more money. But obviously it's a lot. It's a lot about pride as well. I mean, I know from experience. Sort of getting relegated when West Ham were relegated. It's horrible. It's absolutely horrible. We couldn't wait to get back. But that's what you're fighting for. I think sometimes in the respect of trying to get into the Premier League, the hallowed Premier League, sometimes in that respect, the Championship is a bit better because it's a lot more competitive. But the Premier League is still competitive. Look at it again. Look at it this year. I mean, look at when Mourinho, sorry to go back to Mourinho, but when he did the, nobody put on him saying that he was going to win the Champions League with Inter Milan 11 years ago, and he did it, and that's the beauty of it. You get these underdog teams that go so far. I mean, like when you guys went again in the Champions League under Redknapp, you went a long way. Leeds went to the semi-finals. Chelsea have been to 2 finals. Man United have been 2 or 3 finals. And you get some of these, these smaller teams as well that actually, put up a good fight in the Champions League. You're not going to get that in the European Super League, because you're going to have, sort of like 2/3 of the teams are never going to be out of it, and you're going to have other, the other 5 or 6 teams, however many, begging to come in. And if they don't do well, they're not going to come in, and it's not going to be competitive. And from the fans' point of view,
if the Premier League had kicked those 6 out, because like it or not, they bring in the most money. The Premier League,
ultimately that's what it is.
Filter down, and you'd end up only having like 1 league, because everyone would go out of business. And for these owners to go, well, that's fine because we'll be all right, it's just absolutely criminal. But do you think it was a little bit of a publicity stunt, knowing that it wouldn't really happen, but we'll get more money from the Premier League because they'll be devastated if we left, so they'll just give us more money so we don't try and do this again?
I don't know whether it's publicity stunt. I think they're still going to push for it, because I think Perez has come out and said it's not dead. It's not dead in the water. Yeah, well, I know that Matey Boy's chairman or CEO of the Premier League has basically said to all the owners and board directors of the 6 clubs involved, we want you to step down from any subcommittees and committees that involve the Premier League. If not, we're going to force you off. But I think,
do you think they will be able to force them off, or do you think these people have too much power and influence that it should, go on, have a go, we'll just stay on there anyway?
Well, I don't know. I mean, it depends on how it's set up, really. I mean, at the end of the day, if it's set up like a limited company, and the Premier League and whoever has the majority stake in the Premier League, i.e. the CEO or the chairman, has the power to remove people from committees, then you can go ahead and remove people under British law. But I don't think. I think Barcelona and Real Madrid, the ones behind the scenes, they're really driving it forward, and I think they'll keep going. And I think they'll keep going to try and get this ESL approved. But I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon, because I think, I don't know what it was like. I don't know what the reaction was like on the continent from the likes of clubs that weren't involved, like Valencia, Lazio, Roma. Obviously, there were no German teams on there at all. But I don't know what the reaction was from the Europeans, from the European fan base. But I think, I think they probably looked at us and saw our reaction and thought, if they try and force it through again, I think there's going to be a bit more of an uprising on the continent as well in that respect.
Yeah, I mean, it's just supposed to talk on here, I can't. But it's just absolutely criminal. It's just, I can't even find it. It's just angered me so much, really.
There's one word you can use to sum it up, and that's greed. That's it. That's all it is, greed. It's like in society. The rich get richer, the poor get poorer. The billionaires have made something like 3 or 4 trillion pounds more for themselves in this pandemic, and the likes of me and you, Joe Blogs, have lost 3.6 trillion or something stupid like that. The rich get richer, the poor get poorer. Unfortunately, it's now spreading the sport, because you look at the likes of, even it takes a country to buy a club if you want it to be successful. Look at Man City, look at PSG. They're owned by countries.
This greed has been coming from '92 when the Premier League started. So at least Carragher on Sky mentioned that and said, "Are we hypocrites?" Because but I mean, Sky aren't anywhere near the level of all of this. But
no,
for them to kind of, it's a little bit hypocritical. UEFA are ridiculously hypocritical.
They've got no spine at all.
Yeah, I'm just. I mean, do you think there should be punishments for these 6, and if so, what? Because I think if you dock points, that's kind of punishing the fans and the players, which isn't their fault. And I also think if you dock points or take money off, it's going to even more motivate them to go and join this thing, where they won't get docked points and get money. So I think you've got to be careful with that. But there has to be some kind of ramification, because you're potentially trying to rip English football apart.
Yeah, right, in continental football as well. I mean,
Yeah.
you say it's not. You say it's not the fans' fault. Yeah, that's fine. It's not the fans' fault. It's not the players' fault. But Wigan were docked something like 14 points because they went into administration. But the Football League turned around and said, "Well, so rules is rules. I know it's unfair on the fans and unfair on the players, but them is the rules." But unfortunately, rules are in place to prevent this kind of breakaway, and I think the rules should be enforced personally,
So,
even if it is unfair on the fans and unfair on the players. Well, I mean, I don't. I'll be the first to put my hands up. So I do not know the ins and outs of the book's probably that thick on rules and regulations that the Premier League have set down, and probably the FA have obviously set down as well. But I think it should. I think the punishment should be appropriate, and I think it should be just as well, because I think you look. I mean, I don't think there's a lot of fans out there of these 6 clubs from England. They're actually keen on the idea either.
No.
Because at the end of the day, you just become a franchise. And when you become a franchise, you lose that history. I mean, you look at MK Dons, a mate of mine down here in Wiltshire. He's a massive AFC Wimbledon fan. Absolutely hates MK Dons because they are a franchise team.
Yeah.
AFC Wimbledon just fought to get all the trophies back from Peter Winkleman or whatever his name is. MK Dons has no history. AFC Wimbledon is a Phoenix club, and they've got more history than MK Dons. And you turn Spurs or Chelsea or Arsenal or whoever into the turn them into this ESL, and you're going to lose the heart and soul. You're going to lose all the history. And Spurs have been going for what, 130, 140 years. We've been going 125. Sheffield City or whatever they are, Sheffield Football Club, they're the oldest club in the world. They've been going since like 1856 or something stupid like that. That all the history will be lost, in my opinion. And I think, going back to punishment, I think it should be appropriate to the involvement of each individual club in the process of declaring and in the involvement of this breakaway league, personally.
But we both know there's not going to be any real punishment. Like, they may get chucked off the committees, like you said, but they get chucked off committees. They still earn all the money that they're going to get and everything like that, which they may not have the influence that they have, but then it'll probably be like prison where they get people to sneak in.
Yeah. They'll end up paying people off on that one.
It's the world that we live in. Like, the rich never get punished for anything. Whereas you do that as a poor person, the book is thrown in. And well,
I think whoever's going to lose, the real losers will be the genuine fans.
Yeah.
Like the likes of you. You've got a share in a season ticket. I mean, I've known you for what, 25, 30 odd years, and you've always been Spurs, and I've always been West Ham. We will be the ones that lost out ultimately, because they're looking to tap into the Asian market, which have been for years, and they'll get all these fickle football fans that won't understand, like what me, you, and countless other fans in the UK and in Europe as well do.
I think we've got the most amount of Asian fans in the world because of some.
I'm not saying there's anything wrong with having Asian football fans. I'm just saying that's my personal opinion.
Well, we've got the most Asian fans in the world, I think, because of some, but they obviously, like you say, don't know any of they wouldn't know who Jimmy Greaves is.
You might get one or two that be do their due diligence, but majority of them will just be literally following it for some. I mean, I've got a friend that he's from Madeira, he's from Funchal. Basically, he's about 3 or 4 years older than Cristiano Ronaldo. He doesn't follow a football team. I think his football team is Sporting Lisbon, but he follows Ronaldo. He's got his son is he had a Real Madrid shirt when Ronaldo's at Real Madrid. He had a Man United shirt when he was at Man United. He's now got a Juventus shirt, and that's what they're trying. What will happen? People start following players. They won't start following clubs. So they find that let's say Erling Haaland, they'll be having a Borussia Dortmund shirt this season. If he goes to, let's say, PSG next year, they'll have a PSG shirt. And I think that's completely the opposite of what football is at the moment. I think, like I say, that it's complete disregard to the history of each individual club, and I think ultimately proper fans will lose out and be the victims, so to speak.
Yeah, it's sad, isn't it?
It is sad when money does take over, but football's always been about money. If you think about it, even back in the days. I mean, wasn't Jimmy Greaves was set to become the first thing, either £100,000 footballer or first £1 million footballer, but he said he wanted it. I can't remember whether it was 100 grand or a million, but he wanted it a pound under, so he didn't have that pressure on him. And that was back in the 60s, late 60s. That was Greavesy, I think. So it's always been about money, but I don't know. It's just taken onto a different. The gremlin has been fed after midnight, so to speak, and I think it's just morphing into some of this monster. And I think if you go back and looking at the money side of things, I think you've got PSG to blame for that, because I think things like transfer fees are starting to level off a bit until they decided to pay 220 million euros for Neymar, and then it just went silly again. What does 50 million quid buy you nowadays? Sebastian bloody Haller, who was absolute crap. I bet Frankfurt are still laughing at us for that. We probably still owe about 40 million quid for it.
Yeah, but
But
we bought Andy.
That's what it is, mate.
Not for that much money. We bought Andy Boo. Well, we loaned him actually. But
Yeah, Andy Boo, mate.
We bought Davin Ben. Sandra Redknapp's better apparently, but it happens.
Hey, I remember the days when you boys had Chris Armstrong.
I didn't mind him. But I mean, we could talk about money in the ESL forever, but I think we'd just be repeating ourselves. So I think we run out of time a little bit.
I think you've got some editing to do, mate.
Yeah, it's not me. My friend Matt, who was on the Anything But United episode, edits it for me. Thanks again, Matt.
Fair enough.
But yeah, we've run out of time. Thanks so much for coming on.
No, thanks for having us, mate.
Yeah, have you on again.
Good luck on Sunday. In all seriousness, mate, rivalry aside, best of luck to you. Made the best team win, and made the best team not have bought it.
Yeah, and we'll put that at the start. But yeah, for anyone who doesn't follow you on Twitter, where can they find you? What's your handle?
It's at Rob Mungham. I'm Hammer Time #GSB out at the moment. But yeah, just at Rob Mungham, and you'll find me there.
Okay, cool.
Giving lots of crap to the bin dippers, because that's my favourite pastime.
We'll have you on again next season if you're happy with that. Certainly when
go for it.
We've played you, reviewing the game from two different perspectives.
Yeah, and hopefully things will be back to normal next year. We'll be fighting relegation. The table will be the right way up. We'll be 15th or something this time next year. Mark my words.
Fighting relegation and fighting Real Madrid in the Champions League.
Well, they might be in the ESL, mate. Who knows?
We'll see. But we've obviously got the final on Sunday, so I'll be back talking about that. Depending on how that goes, I'll either be crying or still drunk and delirious. Hopefully, it's the last. So I'll be back for that. And then, come on, you Spurs.
Thanks so much for watching. Before you go, please make sure you give the like and subscribe buttons a click. Any questions, comments, or any suggestions for future episodes, if you just add those into a comment on the YouTube video. If you're listening to the audio only podcast, thanks so much for listening. Anyone who wants the audio only podcast, you can get that at Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your audio podcast from. Alternatively, if you go to Twitter at LTalkTottenham, you can find all the information there. I'll be back soon. Until then, come on, you Spurs!